could you just move on to the second one, please? So I'm Michael, and I've worked in shipbuilding for over 40 years. I celebrated 40 years last in August. My dad worked in shipyards, my granddad worked in the shipyards, and my dad died 20 odd years ago with motor neuron disease. So I've worked as an estimator in BAE for 21 years. I joined as an estimator in 2002, and the company's currently building 8 warships for the Royal Navy in Glasgow right now. The first ship is HMS Glasgow. It's well on, and the second and third ship are being built also. The next slide will show you just a quick look at what the ship's going to look like. These are anti-submarine ships. These are going to be the ships that are going to find Russian submarines. These are quiet ships that can detect submarines underneath. There's some of these ships being built in Canada and Australia right now. So it is a leading program of ships in the world today. Move on, please. So back in 2010, I was tripping up. I was tripping up all the time, and I was having to hold on to filing cabinets. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
I was having to hold on to filing cabinets in work, and my concentration was a little bit impacted. My job, I mean, working with numbers all day, I was beginning to feel a little bit vulnerable there. So I was still undiagnosed at this point, and BAE referred me to their occupational health for assessment. They had been in various sessions over weeks and months. They'd tried acupuncture, they tried mindfulness exercises and things, but things weren't really changing. And move on, please, Suzanne. So I went to my GP, and he referred me to neurology in the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital. All the tests came, all the usual MRI scans, lumbar punctures, lots and lots of tests. And then maybe 5 years later, 2015, at long last, he took me in. It was actually Christmas Eve. He took me in, my wife and I in. He told me I had MS. And I was actually okay with that because I was finally getting told what it was I had wrong. After New Year, I had mentioned that my uncle had Addison's disease, which he kept on testing. And then in May 16, he told me about leukodystrophy, and it was incurable. There was no medication, all that. But I took that as a challenge to myself to deal with it. And but worrying about employment, will I still be able to work? I'm still worried to this day about are they going to suddenly take my job away from me? It's just a worry you always have. With the concentration and the memory depreciation, I went to see the psychologist. I've done a few tests and to test my memory and my speed of processing. Actually, the test results were actually quite good. I was actually doing okay. Despite all the stuff that was going wrong, I was doing okay, I kept BAE. They've obviously gone back in time to the acupuncture and the occupational health. They were involved. They knew about everything from day one. I've got the old-fashioned thing in me that I don't want to spring a surprise on them. I want to keep them involved at all times. So that's what I've done. So when I got to 2018, part of a pretty small team of estimators I was actually working on the HMS Glasgow pricing. I was beginning to let the team down a little bit. I was the slow guy. I had went from the best guy to the slowest guy. But I kept going. Whenever my appraisal came, it was one Christmas. It was Christmas 2018. My line manager marked me down as inconsistent, which for me was terrible because I'd never had a bad, almost like in a bad report card in school. I had never had a bad report card in my life, and I found it really tough to accept that. It ruined Christmas. But I went back in after the New Year with a fight in my mind, and I was just going to keep going with it. Later on, 2019, they transferred me into away from the sort of the middle of a program. Whenever you're on a busy program in shipbuilding, it's hard going. Every day is a hard day. So they transferred me into a more data gathering role, which kind of suited me because I've had interest in shipbuilding all my life, and it suits them, it suits me because one of the things you need as an estimator, you need to have historical data, so they transferred me into that. Keep going. So I used to be up in the fourth floor office. They moved me to a ground floor office. They gave me a medical pass. So I'm parking now right at the office. I don't need to go up and down stairs or lifts. So that was really good. I've developed a role into even further into a heritage role for the whole. BAE's got shipyards all over the UK, so I'm kind of doing a historical heritage type role for the whole shipbuilding part of the whole of the UK, which is really good for me because I'm interested in it. Access to work did come in. Tony mentioned access to work. They come in. They assess my workplace. I got a new chair, soft touch keyboard, vertical mouse. That happened just before COVID. So, to be honest, I've never really used them much because I've not been in the office very often. But I've got that. Access to work done me a little bit of good there. And so the safety department got involved with me. They've got a thing called a PEEP, which is a personal emergency evacuation plan. So the safety people have to be involved. They have to come into the office. They have to. It's almost like a trolley. It's bolted onto the wall so that they can get me out if they need to get me out. So they trained up some of my colleagues in how to use it, and this is reviewed every year, every 2 years. I mean, with COVID and nobody in the office much, it's actually now. I was in with my new line manager last week, and we're going to update the PEEP to be updated. It's not been updated since 2020, but people are looking after me and making sure it's updated. And the next slide will show quite a new thing this year. It's called a working adjustments passport, and it's almost like a kind of contract between you and the company and your line manager. Your line manager has to sign it off. It has to agree. The next slide will show some of the adjustments that I've got. Things like being tired every morning. I can stretch my day into the night time if I'm not feeling at my best. I mean, when I'm waking up every day, I feel as if I've been in 10 rounds with a boxer. Every single morning's a tired morning. But when it gets to lunchtime, getting into the evening, I'm at my best between lunchtime and about 7 o'clock. So that's in the adjustment passport. That's all. That's on my HR file. If I change line manager, it's there. So that's been another great help for me. And so there was a conference a couple of weeks ago down in Preston, and they got all the BAE ethics officers from all over the world. There was people from America, Saudi Arabia, Switzerland, UK, all over. And they wanted to have what they call lived experience. They wanted somebody to be able to speak to the group in my situation, which I did for 2 days. And, it was really good. what they want me to do in December is they want me to give the presentation to our work group, to our individual work group. That was the first slide in the pack for neurodiversity. There was a story in the local paper about BAE, but I called him a model employer, which I think is true. And they ran a story in the local paper. You can click the link if you want, or whatever, but the link will show the story that they ran in the local paper. So I had written to Prince William and Kate about asking for support, asking to raise awareness, and that's what's behind me. Is the local castle, and I come from a small town, and that's the castle there, Newark Castle. If you just go down a little bit further, Suzanne, it's just talking about how good an employer they've been to me. So I'm shouting out to the press as to how good they are. So it's kind of good for them. It's good for me. It's good for everyone. And so I think my summary is they have been a good employer. They are a big company. They are a multinational defence company. So I don't think all employers would be quite the same, but this has been a good one. I feel lucky to have them, and they tell me they're lucky to have me. So everyone's happy, and that's my experience in the workplace.